So I just watched Summer Camp Island, and I swear to God my clothes are about to start talking to me. Note to self, go to the cellar and put this in the incinerator after I stop filming. Oh hi! Welcome to So I Just Watched, the show that tried to make a hedgehog and an elephant become friends, leaving a very bloody aftermath. Anyway, let's look at Summer Camp Island, a show that brings the cute and the weird together, emanating from a very familiar stepfather. Honestly though, how can you look at the aesthetic this show has and not smile? Then again, not everybody's like me, and I understand that this isn't to everyone's taste, but just look at how adorable everything is, it's so cute! Apologies for not retaining my composure. I love cute, adorable shit, and this show is just the embodiment of that. Either way, its visual familiarity stems from its molecular ties to Cartoon Network luminary Adventure Time, the show that Julia Pott worked on as a writer prior to branching out and making her own show, similar to Rebecca Sugar, who also worked on Adventure Time as an artist before Steven Universe took shape. It's daunting then to live in such close proximity to both shows' ominous shadows, but with a core central focus on friendship, unexpected happenings, and an unusual aura of calmness compared to most of its contemporaries, Summer Camp Island has ensured its stylistic and foundational differences are unique and solid, at least from the outset. It's lasted for 5 seasons, soon to be a 6th, across TV and streaming, sadly removed from the latter by the actions of one despicable man. Despite that long run of success, it's rarely brought up in animation circles that I frequent and at large, and with its uncertain future, many are worried about its descent into the abyss to be forgotten. I just can't allow that to happen. I first saw an image of Oscar and Hedgehog online and just knew I had to seek it out. An unanticipated and prolonged stay at my dad's following a family wedding had me watching Cartoon Network, and lo and behold, a Season 2 episode surrounding the procrastination of returning an overdue videotape to vampires was more than enough to make me want to check it out and, in the process, create this video about it, to see whether you and I should make home at the camp for ourselves. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's join up with Oscar and Hedgehog and see what this little island has in store for us. The theme song establishes all you need to know. Magic is real here. Our protags are far from home. Anything can happen, and the witches make the rules. Too bad that this song, while unbelievably charming, makes the initial events of premiere episode the first day rather moot. Because where's the surprise of the reveal if your opening ditty spells it out for you? I guess it was done to lure kids into the concept, show it playing out before them, and then give them the space afterwards to judge whether they like it or not. I appreciate that. But it does nothing to help its chances when, like me, you have your critical hat on and are viewing it from the very start, outside of the random episodic syndication which it normally would find itself in which case it causes such a unique but cumbersome problem. And speaking of hats, why does Hedgehog wear that thing anyway? That initial episode sets up Oscar and Hedgehog's divergent yet pleasantly compatible personalities though, the latter loving the unpredictability and fantastical nature of it all, while the former is nervous, insecure, and just wanting a fun camp experience with the knowledge though that now his pajamas can talk to him. It's moral about giving new things a chance and showcasing that with easy to understand plot relevant methods and minor but unobtrusive conflict at its heart settles you in and makes you feel at home within the island's boundless but obviously limiting setting, as well as Oscar's relatable social anxiety and the show confronting it head on with no sugarcoating or apprehension, as the milieu of talking objects, animals, and mysterious entities make their mark. It may start out on rocky ground, in part due to Oscar's mother making him a marked elephant by Susie, the head honcho of the whole camp, but a good start to dip your toes into for an idea of just what this show is about, which is exactly what a premiere should do. And it leads nicely into second episode, Monster Babies, which introduces us to another one of the witches that oversees the camp and her drive to make everything cute. playing on the idea of appearances being deceiving and having you be wary of who to trust based on what is first assumed. Continuing the journey on the naive Oscar being the centre of attention train, it's another episode conflicting Oscar's sincere personality with those whom he's not familiar with, giving kids a lesson to be yourself, but also be aware of the ulterior motives of others, looking out for the best interests of those whom you care about, and knowing when to conform when their uncomfortableness in social situations makes itself apparent. Also, how babies may seem cute, but much like the monsters on the island, they are destructive and ruinous, and that kids should enjoy their lack of responsibilities while they still can. This is quite a heavy load of thematic and moral subtext for a 10-minute episode, right? Hell, we even get some lore expansion with the relationship with the monsters and the witches. We also get to see the witches' self-centered egotism at work in different guises after their minimal showcase in the premiere, even though Susie, who is voiced by series creator Pot, is seemingly the only one who is loathsome to any extent, which confirms the show's cuter, softer aesthetic is rooted in even the most dastardly of foes, if the shark of no return from the premiere was any indication after all. Not to mention that this show just keeps getting cuter, aesthetically and in dialogue, all while Oscar rips into modern societal ills around the perception and deification of children. I love this! It's another light, enjoyable romp that proves its formula works. Third episode, Chocolate Money Badges, takes the blunt, self-aware, everything is out in the open and the characters are oblivious narrative and writing style to a new humorous level. I mean, if you're not laughing at a piece of paper saying this is what you're looking for, badges that reward our campers for knowing about the badges, and piano montage music right as it comes into play, I don't think you or I are on the same wavelength. After the last episode gave us the more magical side of the witches, we now see their nefariousness when it comes to camp rules and rewards, showing Susie's greed and ruthlessness compared to Alice and Betsy in her soul-destroying antics, keeping the campers at bay from actually enjoying their experience. Who'd have thunk it? Where the principle of being rewarded for their efforts evolves into thwarting the dictatorship. A more streamlined and simplistic outing this time that throws laughs out of every direction, and with Oscar's love to see his old and new friends happy, it's just a lovely sentiment that cuts through the razor-sharp script. I'm running out of positive things to say really at this point. I can't say much bad at all about any of this. Leading us into the last episode, Saxophone Come Home, which sees our first adventure into the wild, so to speak, as we discover Yetis, befriending a teenage one as he explores a new world, before blossoming into adulthood in a fit of savage rage. Once again using Oscar's kindness to drive the narrative and conflict forward, it offers up as clear as day Hedgehog's warnings about the dangers of interacting with wild animals no matter how harmless they may seem. It's not a bad episode, but it carries its predictable story with more enthusiasm than it rightfully should, and being the most ordinary this show has been, it's not really providing the laughs and wholesomeness that I now would come to expect, but at least it shows that some deviation from the formula, even in the smallest doses, is at least expected going forward. It's a bit flat, but if this was the worst the show has offered me in this selection, then honestly I really can't complain. But if I was to pick a severe bone with Summer Camp Island, I feel the quick turnarounds of conflict and their resolutions could be a little tighter in this time frame. They still feel like they're sudden and cheap in the episode you're watching when everything can be disregarded to retain the status quo. Then again, this isn't a Summer Camp Island problem, it's a modern cartoon problem. As noted in my Lego Monkey Kid So I Just Watched video, the short runtime of modern cartoons, especially when amplified by fast pacing and loud action, is quite flawed when getting someone older than the age of 10 to appreciate its more internal qualities, which is a problem for a lot of them. But thankfully, these 11-minute slices of absurd camp life are mediated and precise, but contain surprising patience and confident fluidity to give each episode enough room to swing a cat in, educating and making you smile all the way. It's rather refreshing to see a modern cartoon replicate the healing Iyashikei style of slice of life tonal mentality that's usually reserved for its anime origins, while still throwing the strange randomness and unanticipated appearances and jokes that you would expect from a more popular Western cartoon. Some may consider its relaxed pacing a bit of a turn-off, but it's a tonic for me. This show then just feels so totally different to all around it, and I can't help but appreciate that. Hell, if a Cartoon Network show is actively changing the standard remit on those CN Studios end credit bumpers, replacing the stenciled icon and do-do-do-do music with Susie's best line or retort from the episode, then in my opinion, you're onto an absolute winner. So after all that, would I recommend Summer Camp Island? If you couldn't tell after watching near unanimous praise for 10 minutes, I don't know what video you're watching. It's great. In all honesty, I have a sinking suspicion that you may be a little peeved that I went a little easy on this show compared to all the others I've critiqued for this series. But when a show plays so many trump cards that appeal to what I like, I'm going to be easily swayed and hide literally nothing in proclaiming my joy for it. I've not come out of watching a modern cartoon so full of happiness, hurting from laughter, and feeling strong connections with the characters in such a long time. It's sassy, wise, and full of heart whilst keeping itself grounded enough to where you don't feel that its eccentricities are in any way cumbersome or too blunt to be appreciated. It gives you realistic and three-dimensional characters whilst balancing it with the absurd fantasy that modern cartoons have enveloped themselves in, and done so with charm spilling from every pore. Summer Camp Island is a show that will either enamor you from the first experience you have with it, or take time to chip away at you. And honestly, after watching just 5 total episodes, I can see why this has such a dedicated support lurking in the shadows. It's a cartoon in the 21st century that is a warm hot chocolate in a world full of full sugar Coca-Colas. And honestly, it was much needed. It's nice to have a change of pace out there that doesn't throw the cart before the horses in order to stir up a fuss. Summer Camp Island is worth checking out, so do so with gusto. I've been Freddie Thomas, you've been people watching, this is the CC Network, and I will see you all next time. Now where is that hoodie? I need to put it in the cellar.